Yeah, I think when you look at the Manchester derby at the weekend, it's very easy to say that Man City deserved to win and they were the better side. I think up until the penalty, which I don't want to make an excuse about, I thought United were in the game, but you did get that feeling that at some point Man City would take the lead and take control of the game, which is what they did. There's obviously a huge difference between the two clubs at the moment on and off the pitch, and Manchester City are going for titles and Manchester United are deservedly where they are, which is closer to mid-table. I do feel for people like Rasmus Højlund, who was a bit unlucky to give a penalty away and is grafting away up front as 20 years of age. I mean, he's only had a breakthrough year last year. With very little service, he must look at the other end of the pitch and Erling Haaland and go, if only I could have half the sort of creativity around me. But overall, a shocking display at Old Trafford by a Man United side, not for the first time in the last few years. I saw Marcus Rashford was out clubbing on the night of the Manchester derby, and I think it coincided with the night before his birthday. Obviously, these sort of things will always be news because it's an opportunity to go look at this footballer on this amount of money. He's lost a game and he doesn't care about the club. I personally don't have a massive issue with it. I mean, the game is over. I presume that they have training the next day. As long as he's not drinking alcohol and staying out till stupid hours, then I think, and even if he is, I think that's an issue for Erik Ten Hag, and there's no reason to suggest that he was. I think the bigger issue for Marcus Rashford is not what he's doing in his spare time. It's what he's doing in a Manchester United shirt. And he had a really good season last year, and was. But even after that good season, most United fans were like, "Why are we paying him the wage of one of the best players in the world? He's not that level." I think he's on about £350,000 a week. I really like Rashford, but he's an inconsistent flair player. He's not a 350 grand a week player. He wouldn't start for Man City. He wouldn't start for Liverpool. He wouldn't start for Arsenal. Yeah, Manchester United knocked out the Carabao Cup by Newcastle, and I've got to say this is probably more disappointing in many ways than the derby, because no one wants to lose a derby, but most people expected that to happen. I think with Newcastle putting out their B-side and Ten Hag making changes, which was the right thing to do after so many disappointments against the derby, for those replacements to come in and replicate the same effort and sort of cohesion as the team against Man City, I just think there's something inherently wrong in that dressing room, and my feeling is that the players are just letting the fans down. I think the criticism of Bruno Fernandes from ex-players such as Roy Keane and the media is just the typical sort of reaction you get after a bad result. We're all capable of doing it. You get really angry and frustrated and you look for somebody to blame. My angle on this is that this has been going on for years at United now, and individualising any of the problems is just naive and almost throwing your toys out of the pram, really. If you replace Bruno Fernandes as captain, as we did last night because he didn't play, Casemiro's the captain, then he goes off injured and Lindelof becomes the captain. If Varane was fit, he might be the captain. There isn't a captain at Manchester United, so it's a bit like saying let's get rid of Rashford, but who plays in place of him? And I think that United fans are just, in the main, I think quite realistic now. Like myself, we're just like, people can, that these are not the problems that we can solve. Bruno Fernandes actually came on against Newcastle and showed why he needs to play. He may have limitations in relation to consistency, and he may get a bit petulant, but he definitely cares. He'll play anywhere. I think there's a lot of reaction to Ten Hag that's a little bit hysterical. I appreciate that most people who talk about Man United in the media don't support Manchester United and therefore won't have taken the time to do the research on the wider issues. The players that have been bought, you do have to scrutinise. I think that the Mason Mount one, as much as I like the player, confused me. I don't know where he fits in. He can't play as a number 8. We saw that again last night. He can't defend. And then you've got Bruno Fernandes, who plays as a number 10. So why are we spending £55 million and giving the number 7 shirt to Mason Mount? The Antony deal, I like Antony, but we overpaid by a lot. I think if we'd spent what he was worth, about 50 million, it would be less pressure on him and less focus on him. We overpaid on Antony. And I think the third one I would probably look at is Onana, because I look at the game last night and I think De Gea probably saves at least one of those. I think the biggest problem with the Ten Hag out movement is we haven't had a sacking in the Premier League. Everybody's thirsty for that. The media, fans in general, and Ten Hag is the most juiciest fruit in the shop because it's a Man United manager and Man United's big news and Man United are losing games. So I think there's a bit of a pile on because, and I understand it, but I just think it's a bit, when you look at it, I would say, well, look, year one, he overachieved, third place, 2 cup finals, won one of those. Year two, it's dreadful, but there's been loads of injuries. I think if United got rid of Ten Hag as well, we don't have the money to go and get the people I would want. I would be looking, I mean, De Zerbi is an obvious one because of the style of football, but I don't think De Zerbi works at Man United. He hasn't got the recruitment team around him. He hasn't got the players that can play that way. I don't think there's a quick fix, and I think United fans need to wake up. Sacking Ten Hag, you probably end up with Steve McClaren and Darren Fletcher. I mean, what a dream team that is.